Oh, boy, I am very late.
Good evening, Drew.
That is completely my fault. I came downstairs to record about 8:15, and I was like, I looked at the clock and I looked at the dock, and I was like, I got a little time. I can dick around with something, and yeah, I just I don't know. Like I was cognizant that we needed to record, and then I looked at my phone and it was 9:13 with a message from you, and I'm like, oh no,
Oh no.
oh no. Oh no, my podcast. Hi, how are you?
Oh, tired but good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a late night last night. Why don't you tell everybody what we
Yeah.
did?
We played a board game.
We did.
Like,
We
in person.
Yeah.
Like in the same room.
Yeah. I felt good, man.
It did. I needed that so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think of that,
Oh.
man? I mean, I think I finished that last. You beat me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the first time in that particular board game I didn't finish dead last. So for those of you who weren't there, which is almost all of you,
Uh-huh.
we played a game of Terraforming Mars, which is a game that is good, but I suck at. Uh,
Well, I don't know.
no, I do. I
Well,
do know. Yep.
I don't necessarily think that we suck. It's just that we play against people that are really
Okay.
good at strategizing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have sort of given up any hope of winning that game against those group of individuals, just because they are just incredibly smart and they know how that game works. Like they can see the systems. Like I know the rules, but they see the system.
Yeah.
But it was
I
good.
mean, I did better than I usually do, and I felt good about how I played, even though, I mean, we lost by like 20, 25, 30 points.
Well, the part that kills me is
Yeah.
okay. So if you've never played Terraforming Mars before, there's two ways you score points in this game. You can score points as the game is being played, but what usually happens is there is a crush of points that sort of happen at the end of the game, and you need to sort of pay attention to what everybody else is doing, so you have a feeling for how many points they could conceivably get at the end of the game. Now, I won't go too in specifics about what happened with the game last night, but there was one player who got out to a very commanding lead early, and it was up to
Yep.
everybody else to try to catch up. And at no point did I think anybody was going to catch this particular player, but not only did another player catch this other player, it came to a tiebreaker, and I looked at the end scores, and I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. Yeah,
But it was good. We played my 20 pounds worth of board game.
we sure did. Yeah, Drew had purchased the Terraforming Mars big box.
That's correct.
Which was 20 pounds of Terraforming Mars. The components were just absolutely spectacular. I mean, they might be some of the best components I've ever seen for a game.
They were really good. And here, just to go down this rabbit hole for a minute. So again, Terraforming Mars is a game we have played probably a dozen times at this point. I think it is the most popular game that I own, that my group of friends that plays board games wants to play. I've never met anybody that's had a bad time playing it. You could certainly lose, and lose roundly, unless I'm in the game, and then you won't lose because I can't. I focus on the wrong things. But so I already owned a copy of this game. I owned a copy of every expansion. So what had happened was, and this is what I alluded to last podcast, was they did a Kickstarter. They being the company that publishes this game and develops this game. And when they originally announced it, it was just going to be a big box, turns out, that is designed to hold all the components for Terraforming Mars. So the base sort of thing that you could have bought was this box with some game tray organizers, like for all the components and the cards. You had the ability to purchase card sleeves, and the intent was this is for people who already own the game, but need a way to organize it. Now, it's just funny that I bought this because Terraforming Mars had a broken token organizer. I think we've talked about the broken token on this podcast before. I'll put another link in the show notes so you can see the wonderful products they have. Their organizers are really cool because they are made out of wood that is sort of laser CNC'd, and you build it, and and you build the organizer. You might have to use a little bit of glue sometimes, but you build it, and it's designed to sit in the box. And this one was really nice because before all the expansions came out, there was plenty of space for everything. But the last two expansions that I've owned have not been able to fit in that box. So I saw this and I was like, yeah, I need this. But the other thing is, because we play this game so much, some of my cards were starting to look a little bit ratty. For people who don't play a lot of board games, when you have a game with a lot of cards and there's a lot of shuffling and human filth, and cards can start to get ratty pretty quickly, especially board game cards. So at the time of this Kickstarter, in addition to being able to buy this box, there were other upgrades you could buy. For instance, you were able to buy 3D printed tiles. The regular game just has little six-sided, I think those are called hexagons, six-sided hexagons that you place on a grid, like on the game board. These are little 3D printed hexagons that are in the shape of cities or oceans or forests, and there's other little tiles. There were cute little domes you can put on the city. Yeah, there'll be a link in the show notes if you want to see everything. But now here's where things get interesting. Because the components I had were looking a little bit ratty, at the time of the purchase of this big box, you also had the ability to purchase, sort of separately but at the same time, a copy of the base game and all the expansions. Now, again, normally I don't do this. If there's an expansion or something that comes out on Kickstarter, I just buy that. I don't necessarily buy a whole copy of the game again. But this game is so beloved by all, and I figured having a second copy of this game wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I can give my other copy to one of my friends or something. So I bought the whole honking thing, and when it showed up, it literally showed up in a huge cardboard box that was it legitimately, the shipping notice said 20 pounds. It was an incredible amount of board game. And of course, I had to unpack it all. I had to sleeve all the cards, which even in the base game, there's a lot of cards that come with this, but I think there's
a lot of cards.
There's a lot of cards. It took
a lot of cards.
It took 4 people to shuffle them all last night. Yeah, but it was a really good time. And metal cubes, little organizer trays, custom ships for the colonies. They just did a really, really good job of this. If I had any complaints, I think they would be the same complaints that you kind of see on Board Game Geek. Some people were a little disappointed in the card sleeves. I didn't get that particular gripe until I think we had 4 casualties of the card sleeves that needed replaced already, and that's just, like, one game in. That's not great. And then the other thing they didn't do is they didn't give you instructions about how everything's supposed to fit in the box. They have since corrected this because it's amazing what nerds get angry about. Like, if you go out to the Board Game Geek forums for Terraforming Mars, you will see rules questions and people arguing over rules, and that's all well and good, but there is just a flood of hate for these developers, and it is a very, very good game. In fact, if I were to go look at Board Game Geek while I have everybody on the podcast here, I'm just curious.
It's usually in the top 10, if not
I know.
higher.
I haven't seen it recently. Let's see here. So if I go to Geek, browse all board games, let's see. Let's see if it shows up in the top 10 because they rank these.
It does. Yeah. Of the hotness. It's one.
Terraforming Mars is currently the number 4 board game on Board Game Geek. Only behind Gloomhaven, Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which was much better than Season 2, and Brass Birmingham, which is also a fantastic game. But Terraforming Mars is the number 4 board game ranked on Board Game Geek, with almost 70,000 people voting for it, which is crazy to have such a high rating with that many votes. But anyway, long story short, like, you go out there and you read, I can't believe they didn't tell us where all these cards go, blah, blah, blah. And they, it wasn't too hard to figure out, honestly. I think I got it in one, but people love to be told how to put their board games together. So it's just funny to read that feedback. Anyway, it was a really good time. I was just sort of glad to get the gang back together and actually play a board game.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was good. We're gonna do more of those. Don't worry.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right. Okay. I got a feeling this is going to be kind of computer heavy here for a little bit. Uh, so why don't you talk us through these next two topics here?
Well, first, I kind of want to take a trip back to Drew's computer corner,
Mm-hmm.
and in our last episode, you had just cut a hole in your computer case to put
Yep.
a secondary screen to display some statistics and monitor your computer. And I'm sure our readers want to know how that went. Our readers, our listeners, goddamn,
Our listener. Actually, it's gone really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I put the panel in the computer, and I spent probably a few days last weekend, or no, last week, I think is when I did it. Uh, Basically organizing and creating my own custom dashboard for the monitor. Because again, the program I'm using to display the statistics for my computer is called AIDA64, however you say that. And it has sort of this little built-in dashboard maker tool where you can basically add a statistic to the panel, and you tell it, this is the sensor I want you to pull this from. So like for instance, if I want to show my current CPU temperature, I pick the CPU temperature, and then I pick the kind of visualization I want. I could do a bar graph. I could just have a raw number. I could have like a gauge, and the gauge that comes with it is like this little like, it's hard to explain, but it's got little like different colors. And then where it really gets interesting is for some of these metrics you can set thresholds for colors. So if it's below 70, I could make it green. If it's 70 to 80, I could make it yellow. So there's like different things built into that. Or you could use your own custom gauges if you want to like supply different like image states for the different parts of the gauge. So I futz around. I looked online for sort of inspiration. I probably put a solid 4 hours into organizing my dashboard. So the dashboard I have right now is I have the upper left quadrant of the panel for all my CPU statistics, like what is the current temperature, what is the current operating frequency, with a bar chart. The temperature is like a gauge that I created. Let me look over there real quick. How utilized is it? So like 0 to 100%, and then the current voltage that it is pulling. So like when it throttles down versus throttled up. And then in the upper right hand side of the display, I've got basically the same statistics except for my GPU. So what is the current temperature of the GPU? How much memory is it using? What's its operating frequency? Basically the same thing. Lower left corner of the panel is all about memory. How much RAM I am using, how much virtual memory I am using. Yeah, and then the lower right-hand side is like my network monitor, like how much data I'm sending up and down. So I've got the vitals on there. I kind of created like a translucent background, so there's a little bit of a design in the background. I'm actually really happy with it. I think the only thing left to do here is the cables for this are routing kind of along the left-hand side near the glass panel, and I tried to tie them down as best I could, but I could see them because remember, these cables need to go out the back of my computer and into a USB port and into an HDMI port. When I move, probably not before then because I'm not that worried about it, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to basically unplug those cables and route them behind the motherboard so like you don't see them at all, and they will come out on the other side of my case and plug in back there. So long story short, it's actually gone really well. I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out.
Excellent.
Yep.
Oh.
Now, this next one I'm really curious about. What happened? Tell Daddy where it hurts.
Okay, so I guess this is what Paul's computer corner.
Yep.
Okay, so I am not a PC gamer. Gaming PCs are gross.
Okay.
And they're dumb. But we do have one in the house because my son has one. And if you followed along back when, I guess you could still buy video cards, I managed to snag my son a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070. Okay. And that card has been serving him well. Well, about 95% of the time, it's been serving him absolutely well. He gets great frame rates. He can up the graphics quality, the games he plays. It's been really good, except for one game.
Uh-oh.
And that game was Apex Legends. He loves Apex Legends. Say what you will about the game. It's like his second most played game over Destiny 2. So
yeah, it's actually it's a very popular game. Yes.
Yep. So he hasn't been playing it for a while, and then basically stuff came up, and it was time to fix the problem, right? Like literally this game, he would get like sub 20 frames per second on the lowest settings possible. Like it was really, 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 really bad. So this began Paul's journey to figure out what the hell was wrong. So, between, running benchmarks and trying to see if I could find a bottleneck and reading forum posts on the internet, I basically decided that the RAM that I had originally bought for his computer was just too slow.
Okay, so time out. Just refresh my memory. He has an Intel system, right?
He does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it is a do you happen to know what like Intel chipset is? It like Z490, 590 or whatever it was?
Hold on.
I think it was Z490, wasn't it?
Let's see. I have a text document with all this shit in it. Hold on. Give me 1 second as I open that. I think it was a Coffee Lake. Shit, where is it?
Sounds like Z490.
Yeah. Basically it was runs at the base speed is 3.2 gigahertz. It clocks up to 4, right? For what he's doing now, it was fine. The CPU was not the problem. Right? And plus, like every other game, like he can pretty much max out, if not completely max out, and get over 100 frames a second, right? Like in some of his games, like literally his monitor is, like can't get higher refresh rate because the monitor is only 144.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Real time follow up. Z370, Z390 was the chipset for that.
Okay,
sorry.
There you go.
Yep,
okay,
sorry.
there you go. Okay, so you know what? Like RAM's not that expensive, right? So I ordered some faster RAM off the internet, but that's where the second part of the story comes. So the RAM comes, and I go to pop it in his computer. It's like, replacing the RAM, that's easy. That should take like 30 seconds. But that hits the problem. He also has like an all-in-one cooling loop for his CPU, right? Because I'm too lazy to put on a fan, right? And it's just a Corsair one, right? But the case he was in, there was literally no clearance to put. Like, okay, RAM in the past like 2 years has gotten big.
Oh, it's
right?
gotten very tall. It's gotten very tall.
Gotten very tall, right? They're covered in heat sinks and decorations and sometimes RGB, right? It's ridiculous, right?
Sure.
There was no clearance where the RAM was on the motherboard and where the radiator was. There was no clearance to put any sort of tall RAM into there.
Ooh.
I was just stuck. I could not, like, it was already really, really close. And with the big chunky RAM that, I mean, RAM's big now. That's just how it is. So I was like, well, shit. What do I do? So I do have one resource that I can use for problems like this. And that is called throw money at the problem.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, we brought up the Micro Center website. We looked at, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get him a bigger case. It's getting close to his birthday. Might as well just treat the guy. And we looked around the Micro Center website, and he picked up a case. And I actually picked up that case yesterday before I arrived at your house. And we got an absolute behemoth of a case.
Oh, which one?
He picked out the Lian Li O11D XL.
Oh, so I wish you would really check with me first. I actually have a spare case that is that case. I'm not kidding. Back when I water cooled my PC, that was the case I was using. It is sitting in my basement unused.
That's all right.
Okay. Well. Okay. So you got in the bigger case, but how did you solve the RAM clearance problem?
Well, the case is. So it was literally because the radiator was at the top of my case. The old case he got was relatively smaller, right? Okay, all right. The radiator was at the top, where the RAM was positioned on the motherboard. The radiator overlapped the RAM. There was no more clearance. With a bigger case, I mean, especially the fact that the power supply is kind of hidden and behind.
Yes,
it really opens up so much. So this morning we rebuilt his computer. Put everything in there. I'm about 85% happy with my cable management. There's some things I want to do, but he was getting impatient. So at the end, we kind of just threw it together so we could play some games. So the next time I go in there, I'm going to change a couple little things. But the most important thing, this was all about getting new RAM into there.
Okay.
So we put the new RAM in there. Fired up Apex Legends like immediately, like 120, between 140 frames a second. It just boom, just cleared everything up. And from what I could tell about, reading the forum stuff is like Apex Legends is just like an unoptimized piece of garbage as far as the code works.
Interesting.
And when it detects like, I guess like the big difference is on the newer cards, it uses DirectX 12 instead of DirectX 11.
Right.
And when it detects that, like it just uses a different code path, and the RAM was just not. And I also went from 16 to 32 because why not? But everyone's saying, yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple questions here, right? Because you're right. RAM is usually not the bottleneck.
It's
RAM,
not. Yes.
Especially for gaming, right? I mean, usually in order, it's usually GPU, CPU, RAM, and I would even say that like your hard disk would cause things to throttle before your RAM even does. Now,
but RAM was the only thing I had left, right?
Yeah,
because decent GPU, he's running all SSDs.
Yeah,
the CPU, like it could be faster, but like it's not going to be that much faster.
Now I say that, but here's the other interesting thing. RAM configured wrongly can lead to crashes. It can lead to stuttering. It can definitely be a symptom of what you were doing. Now let me ask you a question, Paul. What speed of RAM did you go from again?
Hold on.
It'll be like PC. It'll be like I think it's PC, whatever.
I took a photo. Hold on. And I just recently deleted it, so it's going to be. So the RAM speed was 2400.
DDR4 2400.
So we went from that to 3200.
Interesting. Okay, so you went from did you have one stick in there or two before?
Two.
And you went to 3200.
And 216s. Yep.
216s. Okay.
Yep.
Now, when you installed the RAM. Did it detect the new speed, or did you have to enable the XMP profile?
I went into BIOS to make sure it detected the speed, and it did all that. Yep.
Yeah, because what's interesting is like RAM is RAM, right? At the end of the day, it's usually some goofy RGB chassis, or some metal heat spreader if you're lucky.
Yep.
That just has some chips in it. Now, those chips have different timings, right? You'll see like cache level 16, cache level 19. There's different latency timings and everything, and those timings are usually pretty tight. So if your motherboard and processor combo don't necessarily adhere to those timings, that's where things like blue screens and weird crashes come from, right? So these memory things have like onboard profiles, and these onboard profiles are basically designed to be read by motherboards so that the motherboards know how to set their timings correctly. So one thing I would encourage you to do, and maybe it already did this. If it detected PC 3200, you're probably in good shape. But when you go into the motherboard BIOS, what I would look for is XMP profile, and it should be set on like XMP profile 1. What that'll do is that'll automatically set your motherboard to sort of quote unquote overclock. It'll set the correct voltage for your memory.
Okay.
It'll do all that work for you if you don't want to set those timings manually. 99% of the time it's great. It'll get it right. Where things get really goofy is like if you have an AMD motherboard, because XMP is actually an Intel thing, but AMD motherboards are able to read the same profiles. They just call it something different. AMD is also AMD chipsets seem to be way more picky about memory. I know that most of the problems that I have had building computers over the years have been because some like weird memory incompatibility, which is why like when you go to a motherboard maker's website, they actually have a QVL or qualified vendors list of the different memory modules that they test. So what I do is when I'm building a new system, once I decide like what motherboard I want, I almost try to find memory that is on that QVL list, so I know that it's been tested. So that way, if it's screwing up, that's almost a guarantee that it's bad memory sockets instead of an incompatibility. So good on you on figuring it out. I would double check those XMP settings just to make sure. And then the other thing I would make sure that you do, because 3200 is pretty fast memory for a Z390 board. Is he on the most recent BIOS revision?
He is. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that would be the only other thing I think that might cause you some issues. But yeah, you nailed it, dude. Way to go.
Dude, I mean, it's like you said, like, I mean, granted, like, I haven't been a PC gamer for a long time, but like, it's usually not the RAM. Like, and like, literally everything else was running great. But like, it was the only part that like really hasn't been upgraded. It was slow. I mean, it would have been fine, like, you know, in a Dell workstation. It's probably a little slow for a gaming PC. And I was just like, and I was telling him, like, I mean, this could be it, but I can't guarantee this is going to be the fix, right? Like, well, I'm like,
just tell him to call Uncle Drew. Uncle Drew come over.
Yeah, that was basically the next thing. I was going to be like, if it wasn't going to work, it was like, nope. Like we're going to call Drew, and Drew's going to fix it for us. Yeah, so like literally, and you can kind of see when I put in the doc like my train of thought as things were going. But this morning, I figured it out, and I feel very smart. So
that's great. So it's running better now. Now the only thing,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now he has, correct me if I'm wrong, but he has an NVIDIA 3070.
3070. Yep.
Yeah. I was gonna say like that card should be able to devour that game, even at 1440p.
Yeah, I like he's got a 1080 monitor, like, and he just beats the crap out of the games. Like even like he's big into the Assassin's Creed series, and he just recently got Valhalla, right?
Ooh.
And that's a relatively modern game, and he can run that at like 120 frames at almost the highest settings, right?
Wow.
So granted, you know, he's running at 1080, right? So he's not pushing the 1440 or a 4K monitor, but like he can beat the crap out of that game. And Apex Legend was like, no, I'm not gonna run. Like it was like 20 frames a second was like the high water mark. It would drop down into the teens, and it was just unplayable. But now it works really well, and he's happy, and he's got a big old case, and the cable management looks good, and he's got some kick-ass fans in there that look really nice. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's happy.
Yeah, and I bet you, well, so those Leanne Lee makes really nice cases. Like when I think of companies,
spacious.
Well, and that one I think is, it's got tempered glass on the front and on the side.
And the side, yep.
Yeah. So funny thing about that case, like that is the case. Like if you go to like water cooling subreddits or water cooling forums, like that is the case. That there's a smaller version of that one too. For more like mid tower builds versus that, and that sucker's heavy. Like that thing's got some heft to it. But really, really solid case.
The only thing I might do is, he's got a slightly older motherboard, which before like graphic cards were like the size of a loaf of bread,
right?
And it gets pretty tight getting into some of those headers underneath that sucker. So they do sell like a vertical GPU mount.
So
That
don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. So I'm sure if we had more listeners, someone might argue with me on this, but vertical GPUs are really designed only if you're water cooling.
Okay.
Because what will happen is once you sort of turn that GPU 90 degrees, there's depending on the case you're in, and again, the O11D is pretty big, but you're basically putting the fans close to the glass, and it won't be able to circulate as much air. So the card might get a little bit hotter. Now, if you were water cooling, it wouldn't matter, right? Because you're going to have a loop to carry away the heat. I'm pretty much of the opinion that vertically mounting GPUs is not a good idea unless you're water cooling. What I would say instead is the biggest enemy you have, and I don't know how bad it is on a 3070, but on my 3090 it is pronounced, is a graphics card brace or like a holder.
Yeah.
That sort of makes sure that the card doesn't sag.
The card he got came with one of those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like most modern motherboards now, like if you look at a modern Intel chipset motherboard, or if you look at a modern AMD motherboard, you will notice that the PCI slots almost have like a band of metal around them, which is basically reinforcing them because graphics cards have gotten so heavy. So I basically 3D printed a little stand for mine. I measured and then scaled the thing so it just kind of just provides just enough of a little bit of a lift so it takes some of that pressure off. Not that I'm super worried, but it's one of those things where, of course, if you go on the internet and you look for it, you will see horror stories of graphics cards that have like bent an entire PCIe slot. So I would not. I would advise you against doing that.
Okay.
Now, the only other thing to sort of think about for his case is airflow in an O11D is a little bit interesting. You said that you have the radiator mounted on the top.
Mm-hmm.
What I would maybe think about doing next time you have it apart is take the radiator, and again, I could probably click on the link and validate this, but there's like a side area you could mount the radiator, right?
Yeah, I thought about putting it on the side, but ended up not.
Well, so interestingly enough, right, because you have tempered glass on the front, you have tempered glass on the side, you want to try to create airflow that comes in one way and goes out the other. So what I would almost suggest you do is take the radiator from the top, rotate it, how many degrees is that? 90 degrees?
90 degrees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just now, here's the thing you have to make sure of, though, when you're mounting the radiator sort of vertically like that instead of horizontally, is the barbs, anyway, where the tubes come out of the radiator, you want that at the top. Like, you want that to be as high up in the case as you can, because those holes for your radiator should be higher than the pump. Because air is always going to rise to the top, and you don't want air in the pump. So you want the radiator to be as high up in the case as possible. So like right now it's in the top of your case, so it's not a big deal. But when you rotate that and you put it in the front of your case or the side of your case,
so make sure the tubes are at the top.
The tubes are higher than the pump.
Higher than the pump. Yeah, which there should be plenty of room in there to do that. So
yeah. And what I would say is you could probably get a little clever with it, where you could, like, for his particular case, what I would consider doing is basically putting the radiator, if it fits, right? Because I don't know how much clearance you have with the graphics card where it is, but putting the radiator on one side of like the cutout, and because I think there's little panels that pop off, right?
Yes, you can mount like SSDs onto them if you want.
Yeah, so if you pop those panels off, you could put like the radiator. You could put the radiator on one side of the cutout and the fans on the other. And for his configuration, what I would really consider doing is putting the fans like in the back side of the case and have them push air through the radiator into the case. So what that'll do is that will force cooler air through your radiator from the side of your case into your case, and then you could have fans at the top of your case that is exhausting the hot air from the graphics card out through the top. That would be sort of my recommended way to do it, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, good on Zach. I'm glad that he's all set, and he and I need to play Destiny sometime. I'm so back into Destiny right now.
Okay.
I woke up one day and realized that what was that game I was playing that was awful? The third person shooter thing. Uh,
I don't. I don't. What were you playing? I
crap,
don't
crap, crap,
remember.
crap, crap. What's it called? Oh no. Oh no. Uh, what is it called? Shoot. What was the game I was playing? It's in the notes.
You're gonna
Crap.
make me look, aren't you?
I'm looking. I'm looking. Cyborgs. I remember when we talked about that. It's kind of fun to go look down this list. Friendship Cube. That's oh man. It was before that. There's your smoke alarm. Oh, there's our ASMR stuff. Man, a little trip down memory lane here. Uh, Outlands.
Okay. Oh yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that game. That
Yes.
game's garbage.
Yeah.
It reignited my desire to play a looter shooter. Again, I hadn't played Destiny 2 in a while, so picked up the latest expansion and season pass, and I've really been enjoying myself. So yeah, I'm pretty back hard on the Destiny 2 train right now.
Yeah. That's his top played game.
Ooh,
I think is
yeah,
Destiny
mine's
2.
mine's getting up there. Mine's getting up there. All right, now this next topic I know absolutely nothing about, so you're gonna have to help me with this one.
So, my kids, well, my daughter now, my son also used to play. My daughter still plays a hell of a lot of Roblox. And Roblox is one part game, one part game creation tools. And so do you remember like the old days of YouTube when they didn't give a shit and there was just copyrighted material everywhere on YouTube? And then YouTube got like real popular and the lawyers came and they had to like clean their stuff up.
Yeah, I still feel like there's a decent amount of licensed music, like music videos on YouTube. But yeah, I get you.
Yeah. And like a lot of those are now put up there by the license holder and stuff. But like there was just a wild west of, and it's still not great, but it's way better than it was. Well, one thing I always kind of noticed about Roblox watching my son and my daughter play is, and I think I brought this up before, it felt to me very much like the early days of YouTube when they were like, what's copyright infringement? And I saw in the news the other day that they're getting sued. They're getting sued.
Okay.
So the reckoning has come for Roblox. The National Music Publishers Association has filed a $200 million lawsuit against Roblox for the legal use of songs.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. It's significant. Granted, like, what does it say? When Roblox went public, they were valued at $52 billion. But that doesn't mean they have $200 million cash in hand or the willingness to get lawyers and deal with all that wonderful, hoo-ha.
Well, it's funny because not too long ago I saw some headlines where like, and I actually got an email from Twitch about this. I think they just blanket emailed everybody because nobody watches my channel, so they're not in any fear here. But like, there was an email that went out to Twitch like, hey, there's been a crap load of DMCA takedowns from music publishers. And, the only time I think I was close to getting in trouble for that was when I was streaming when I was playing GTA 5 and streaming because they play licensed music in GTA 5. And I think that's, even though I'm playing a game, I think that would probably land me in hot water.
Yeah, because a lot of games are now adding like streamer modes.
Yeah,
where all that copyrighted material is removed.
Now here's another interesting thing too. So I have a Monster Cat subscription. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Monster Cat.
I think we talked about it before.
Yeah, we might have. I'm going to put another link in the show notes, but it's it's basically it's basically kind of like a Spotify type thing where you could discover artists and they have like techno and like other genres on there. But what's interesting is that if you subscribe to them, you get a key and you can basically register your Twitch channel with them. And if you do that, they won't like whatever algorithms, whatever AI they have that is designed to scan Twitch and look for songs, they won't flag you because you have a quote unquote subscription, right? You are licensed to use the songs. Now, when I recorded that King's Quest playthrough the other week, I I did a recording of it, and I uploaded the recording to YouTube. And even before I could publish it, YouTube flagged those songs. Like it knew exactly what songs were going to be in it. So, because I don't know how to hook that up for YouTube, but anyway, I guess my question, I say all that in the question of this. So, how are people using licensed music in Roblox?
They're just literally ripping tracks and putting them as the background music for their games.
So again, the big thing,
yep,
yeah. So the big thing about Roblox is you can create like little custom games using. It's almost like a game creator, right?
Yeah, they have a pretty sophisticated. I looked at it briefly just because I was kind of curious to see what it was all about, and they have some pretty sophisticated, game tools and a full on scripting language and assets you can use and all that wonderful stuff. Yeah, so a lot of people make games for Roblox. A lot of the most popular games appear to be like cheap copycats of other games or social playgrounds where there's like a little bit of a game, but mostly it's about hanging out with your friends. Those seems to be, at least with my daughter, those seem to be the most popular. But yeah, like they have a really robust game creation. Now, granted, like I don't know if you've ever seen Roblox graphics, but
yeah, they're not really blowing my hair back.
No,
who am I to criticize?
No, but like it runs everywhere. Like my daughter primarily plays a lot of her stuff on a Chromebook, so like
okay,
they keep the requirements down pretty low as far as graphics. But yeah, it's like you just be playing and you'll just hear like a copyright, like music, pop songs playing in the background. And it's just coming right from the game, and it's been like that for a long time. And I'm like, one of these days they're gonna get hit with the with the lawyers. And
yikes!
It came true.
Wow. So 200 million.
200 million. Yeah, they're also going after Twitch, but that's not as exciting.
Wow.
I didn't predict that. Yeah,
they're going after Twitch as well.
Yeah, and that's the article I put in the show notes. They're basically going after. It says they're also going. Oh, they've launched a major ramp up of its takedown campaign against Twitch for the Amazon's platform failure to license music.
Oof.
Yeah.
So do you think they'll get it?
I can't see how they can't. Like they probably have proof and evidence and. Been collecting this stuff for years. So,
well, I mean, again, just because it's so not on my radar. Like, how many people actually play Roblox?
A lot. Like I said, they just went public for 52 billion. Hold on, let's see. Roblox.
I feel like I remember that.
Monthly players 2020. That's what the internet says. 42.1 million daily active users.
Wow.
So it's big. That's to me that's significant. That's a lot. Like
now, what do you buy in Roblox?
So you can purchase Robux. Isn't that clever? And there's two ways you can spend your Robux. Well, technically three. One, there's just cosmetics for your character, right? You can just splat out, you have your little icon. You can buy cosmetics that you can use in pretty much every game. Game creators can also monetize their games and charge Roblox for things like the things mobile game bullshit, right? Like faster unlocks and stuff like that. Okay, so you can monetize your game there. Or you can also spend them on the game creation side to buy assets for your game. So like you as a say like you're really good 3D modeler and you make some really kick-ass trees. You can sell those trees to other content creators and charge them Robux to use your trees in their games. My daughter doesn't. Like every once in a while she'll ask for some Robux, but not too often. I I mean, it's actually been like, all things considered, she's really used it to keep like, to socialize with her friends, right? So to them, Roblox isn't so much a game as it is a place for them to hang out. So like, I'm cool with it. Like, they play stupid like jump scare games and games where they build a house. Like, it's basically a knockoff version of like The Sims.
Oh,
But she loves it. But like, I've been waiting for this day to come, Drew, and it's here. The party's over. What I guess is, like, I'm sure they'll settle, and I'm sure they'll do what like YouTube did and allow them to scan and pull content over it, and probably give them a bucket of money to license some technology that helps them identify copyrighted material. And like, I'm sure it won't see the courts, but just I knew it was going to happen, Drew. I knew it.
Wow. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Just don't, pay people for their work.
That's there it comes down to. Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Copyright law is a real thing.
Yeah.
Not everyone agrees with it, but it's still the law.
200 million. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's no small chunk of change. I'm sure it could have been bigger, but
oh, totally.
Yeah, I'm sure the lawyers were like, I bet you we can get 200 million and
throw a number and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So have they?
I bet you they'll settle. Yeah.
Has Roblox done anything to like curb it yet? Have they introduced anything that stops people from doing it? Because that's the thing, right?
Yeah. I think that's going to be the outcome. They basically said like, hey, if someone puts a DMCA notification on anything, we take it seriously and we remove any infringing content. But I'm guessing they're going to have to move to a model more like YouTube, where things get scanned ahead of time and gets flagged before they get published, just to kind of keep that stuff from like that has to be the outcome, right? Like, they're going to have to do more stuff on the front end before these games get published to scan for that kind of stuff. And it's, and it's honestly, it's not just like music. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've heard like Mario sound effects come from a Roblox game. Like,
wow.
Like, they just steal everything. If they can find an MP3 of it or something on the internet, it's just
wow.
It's
jeez.
Which I get it. Like, these are probably semi-professional game develop. Like, they're not pros, right? They're amateurs or hobbyists or stuff like that, and they're just using whatever they can find. And they want to use their Mario sound effects and their I don't know, what's a popular rap artist these days? I don't know. Insert trendy name here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew. Man. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm really happy that I'm happy about all this news. I'm happy Zach's computers work. I'm happy Roblox is getting sued.
Me too. I'm happy we played a board game.
I'm happy we played a board game. It's happiness all around. So why don't we end on a happy note this week? I'm over on Twitter at Pittsburgh, Pittfurg. And I know we're only 50 minutes into this episode, Paul, and if we had a little more time, I might want to start this one, but I'm already putting in episode 104 right now, where I want to hear everything you heard announced at WWDC, at Dub.
Okay, Dub. Yeah,
Dub.
I love to talk about
So next episode,
stuff.
all Apple stuff, mostly.
All Dub. Yep.
All Dub.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Thanks for listening.